Okay, thank you. Welcome back to Cole Smith's Tableau tutorials. Today we got a good one. We're going to go over include and exclude LODs. This is part of our Tableau Order of Operations series. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We'll get right into it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my other screen. And we are right here. So last video, we went over dimension filters. Right now, we're going over include and exclude LOD. Now, you may be asking yourself, why would I want to use include or exclude LOD? Okay, so what's really cool about include and exclude is that you can use it after your dimension filters, right? So what include and exclude level detail does is it allows you to include or exclude dimensions that are in your view and do calculations based on what dimensions you included or excluded, right? So I'm going to go over an example using using the NFL offensive player data set, doing like totals and things like that. So you can get percentages, which naturally wouldn't be doable in Tableau, so to speak. You can do these things obviously using things like table calculations, but there are times and places where you may want to do an LOD over a table calculation. So let me go ahead and pull up Tableau, and I'm going to go over an example, right? All right, so we have our players here, and we're looking at quarterbacks, right? So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and add year to this. And then I'm going to add, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my measure values because I'm going to want to show more than one measure, right? So I'm going to show you like the touchdowns for a given year and then the total touchdowns for that player in general, right? Okay, so I'm going to move this here. I'm going to edit this, and for right now, I'm just going to leave I guess touchdown, and because I don't want it to go away, I'm going to do touchdown 1. Okay, so I'm going to apply, but I'm only going to do touchdown. I think these other ones probably running or something like that, but I'm only going to do touchdowns. So I'm going to remove it in a second. All right, so actually, let me delete this because I already created it. I'm going to do it again. Okay, so I'm going to create this for I'm going to call it total touchdowns. And this one I'm going to do an exclude, right? So this is the way you want to think about it, right? Okay, so I'm asking myself, how do I get the total touchdowns for each player over the course of their career, right? And again, you could use a table calculation to do this, but I want to be able to do it so that way I get the number coming down here, repeating itself, right? So, you do open and close bracket, and what I'll do is exclude. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I need to figure out what dimension do I want to exclude so I can get the total for an entire player, right? Well, right now it's broken down by year, right? So I'm getting 26 for Peyton Manning 1999. I'm getting 33 touchdowns for the year 2000 by Peyton Manning, and so on and so forth. So again, I ask you, how do I get rid of this? So what I'm going to want to do here is I'm going to want to exclude year, colon, I'm going to do sum touchdown. Hit apply OK, and now I can drag it over. Perfect, right? So now, as you can see, I have the total touchdowns for Peyton Manning sitting next to his touchdowns for a given year. Again, this is very, very powerful because now I can see the touchdowns for that player, and I can do different type of calculations on it, right? So, for example, here, Peyton Manning's highest year is 55. I could divide that and see, what is the percentage of touchdowns that he might have produced in that given for that year relative to his entire career. And you can see this throughout all players, right? So I see everyone. I can see how many they produce and see their big years, their down years, and so on and so forth, right? And that's really cool. It's really powerful. Okay, so that takes care of exclude. So now let's think of an include example, right? All right, so for this example, again, we're using an NFL offensive player stats CSV file that's available with Tableau Public. As you can see here, I have the position on the dimension filter listed as quarterback, and I have the player as Kurt Warner. The reason I picked Kurt Warner because so what I want to show here is I have players dimension, that's my only dimension, and I have touchdowns and interceptions as my two measures. What I want to show here is let me show you something. If I drag over team, Kurt Warner played on 3 teams. So what I want to show is what was his average amount of touchdowns that he produced using team as a dimension that I'm including and not just player, right? So what I'm saying is I want to take these 3 numbers up and then divide them by 3. Include is a very powerful function, but you have to think through it when you're using it because you need to specify what dimensions you want to include. Because you can make the case that if I said, okay, show me the average touchdowns by Kurt Warner, that's going to be different. That's going to be effectively saying, give me his average touchdowns by year, which is the same thing as me saying including year. But with team, I'm being very specific, and I'm saying, give me his average touchdown looking at this dimension, which is team. So it's going to take all 3 of these and break them up as opposed to year, if that makes sense. And I'll do another video on this, giving multiple examples, because there's a lot of things you have to consider when you're using LODs, like missing values and things like that. They can kind of trip you up, and it's important to kind of acknowledge these things. But let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about, right? So these are just touchdowns for each team, and I'm going to take away that, and then I'm going to add this as a dimension. I'm going to call it team average, right? So I'm going to do the curly braces. Let's say include, and if I go over here as well, if you don't know, gives you how the syntax should be written, and it computes an aggregate using the specified dimensions and the view dimensions. Key, they're very specific, right? The aggregated dimensions and the view dimensions. So whether you're aggregating as well as what's in the view. So I'm going to say, so we already know players included because it's in the view, but I want to add team. And then I'm going to sum by touchdown, right? And then I'm going to say, okay, and then I'm going to drag this over. Now, when I drag it over, I get 208, which is a sum, which makes sense. Now, when I change this to average, I get 69.3, which is great, right? So that gives me what I want. So now I could say, so now if I was to use this and I was to do a chart, right, I could see, what was his average touchdown from each team. And I could chart I could break them up, right? I could break it up and have like a bar graph with each team. So showing his 100 over he had for each team, and then seeing was that the amount he had with that team, was that above or below that average, right? Which is really, really powerful. So there's something you can do with that. I'm gonna stop sharing. So that's my introduction into exclude as it pertains to Tableau include as it pertains to Tableau Order of Operations. Again, we'll go back over these 2 concepts, LODs in general, in depth, because they are complicated. And I'm gonna go over different scenarios so you can get a really good full breadth of it. But don't forget, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this content. And I'll be back with another video. Peace.